We are live.
Yay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for being here. Welcome, welcome, beautiful beings of light. Happy Sunday. Wonderful Brentwood Inspired Living community. I am going to find us here on Facebook. I grab my phone in front of me, and that's where I connect with you. There we are. Nice and smooth. Some mornings it doesn't happen so quickly, and this morning it did. So I'm grateful. Good morning, Bonnie. Everybody is logging on. As soon as we go live, all those numbers just start climbing up. Yay! I'm so glad that you're here with us this morning. Welcome into our Facebook Live. Feel my warm virtual embrace. It is warm and loving, and I am so appreciative of all of you being here and spending time with you on Sunday mornings. If you're watching the replay later, welcome. Leave us a comment and let us know that you stopped by, because otherwise we won't know, and we like to connect and know that you're here and checking in with us. Good morning, Dawn. Good morning, Dennis. I see everybody hopping in. Good morning, David. I am so thankful to share this sacred time with all of you. Good morning, Beverly. She says, it's such a joy to find you each Sunday. I appreciate everything that you all do each day. We appreciate you, Beverly, and always feel your love. Thank you, thank you. Good morning, Karen. Karen, I'm so glad you're here. Randy, thank you for being here. Yay! I love spending this time together. So I must, right out of the gate, wish a very happy birthday to our January birthdays. So last week I wished our February birthdays a happy birthday, and I didn't blink an eye. So I'm going to tell you why, so you won't think I'm as out to lunch as it appeared that I was. So many of you know that I work as associate publisher for Brentwood's 110 magazine, and we always work a month ahead. So on January 1st, everything I'm looking at, all of our editorials are for February, all of my Google Docs are February, everything is labeled February in the calendar. So last Sunday when I looked up and jotted down the February birthdays, my mind didn't even skip a beat. It's like, oh, February. So January birthday blessings too. We have Christy, Garrett, Luinda, Robin, and Gloria. Happy birthday this month. May this celebration of your appearance on earth be sweet. Very, very sweet. So good morning. Jan is here. Thank you for being here, Jan. Let us know how everything is going. Good morning, Jim and Siggy and Kathy. Oh, I looked up for a minute and have to scroll back. So many people joining us. I'm so glad. Good morning, Debbie. Good morning, Ronnie. Good morning, Luminda. Yay! We're all coming together. Good morning, beloved human beings. I see you all tuning in with us. Thank you for bringing your heart here with us this morning. We welcome you. We have TJ, Mirabai, Steve, Bonnie, and we are all welcoming you with lots and lots of love. My name is Amy Van Ling, and I am joyfully the spiritual director here at Brentwood Inspired Living Center. It is my joy and fun and honor to be here. Our theme for this month of January is transformation. And I think probably the caterpillar turned to chrysalis and finally reborn as a butterfly is probably the most used representation, image, visual of transformation. And the story I love the most about the caterpillar was the story about the boy who comes along to find that butterfly pushing and trying to escape, and so he thinks that he's wanting to help the butterfly by cutting open the cocoon, and then the butterfly emerges but can't fly, because part of that transformation that's necessary is that pushing, because what happens is that it pushes the fluid out of the butterfly into the wings. And so that time of transforming and shifting of that energy was necessary. So I always like that story, that part of the story of the butterfly. Good morning, Maria. Good morning, Paris. Good morning, Nancy. Good morning, Gail. Good morning, beloveds. Good morning, Garrett. Yay. I'm so glad everybody is joining with us. I'm so grateful because we're all here creating this loving, kind, tender, safe, magnificent space for all of us. And today we are so thankful that we are Zooming because we have TJ with us, TJ Woodward, and he now lives in Marina Del Rey. So we have Zoom, and I am grateful for that today. Yes, and TJ's message today is the anatomy of transformation. So thank you, TJ, for being with us. We are always so appreciative and grateful for you.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
We're grateful. And we have our wonderful musicians, our exceptionally inspiring and heart expanding Heart Dream Mirabai and Steve Bangs with us today. You are both such a gift. We are so grateful that you're here and we love you so much. And they stay muted because they've got all that really great sound equipment. And so we know that you're there and love you. And we have our beautiful Bonnie Daniel with us. She's joining to share our inspirational reading and our abundance message. We are thankful for your kind and gentle and loving spirit, Bonnie. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Good morning, Maida. Good morning, Ron. I see everybody tuning in. Leave a comment, a heart, or something, because otherwise I don't see you, and I like to see you. I like to see your face and name tuned in. Good morning. Ron says, good morning, Heart Dream. Stephen says, good morning, Steve. Glad you're here. He says, good to see Steve and Mirabai. Yes, so he's nice when they return with us. So we have been playing a Facebook game live every Sunday morning. And last week's question was, what does abundance mean to you? And Sandy Hart is our winner. And Sandy, if you're on, connect with me because I don't have your address to send you a little special gift. So you can find me on Facebook and send me a little note or email me at amy@brentwoodilc.org. I look forward to connecting. I want to share Sandy's reply. Where do I have it? Okay. Oh, yep, I do. I wrote it down because I loved it. So the question was, what does abundance mean to you? And she said, when there's enough for everyone and all beings, and our planet herself are cared for and considered sacred. And I thought that was so beautiful. And so this week's question, which I just came up with this morning because I went, oh, I didn't think of a question. And so we came up with one that seems very fitting. And it is, what does transformation mean to you? So go ahead and put your response in the comments, and we will check those out in the next 3 hours. Plop that in there. You don't have to do it right now, but in the next few hours, do that. And then we'll put your name and draw a name, and I'll let you know for next week. So remember, we have our annual meeting today at 11:30. It's on the same link, our same Zoom link we use every Sunday for our after service workshops and connection. And it's on our homepage, brentwoodilc.org. It's that same link. The password's the same. Jump in there at 11:30 with us. We have lots to recap about last year and talk about for this coming year. So we really encourage you to be there with us. Good morning, Pat. Good morning, Betty. I'm so glad to see everybody here jumping on. You wonderful sacred beings. Thank you. So we will go ahead and get started now. I invite you to open your hearts and feel into our mission statement with me. We are an open, heart-centered spiritual community, honoring the one presence within us. We welcome all to connect, grow, and expand in wisdom, compassion, and love. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us, joining in this sacred space. I'm going to hand the screen over to Bonnie now for our inspirational reading this morning. Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you. Since the theme to this morning is transformation, this story today is about Gandhi. And this is an interesting story from his early years of transformation. Gandhi was not born into a simple lifestyle. He entered an arranged marriage at age 13. Gandhi wasn't great in school, and he even had a rebellious phase that included smoking and eating meat. His family, mostly his father, guided him to enter the legal profession. At age 18, he went to London to study law. He dressed in Western clothing and struggled to transition to the culture. However, he did connect with others in the vegetarian movement and became more committed to a meatless diet. And here is why. Behind Gandhi's personal transformation Many people have a moment of truth, and that comes a defining point in their lives. For Gandhi, it was a specific day, June 7th, 1893. On that day, Gandhi was 23 years old and on a train heading for Pretoria, South Africa. A white man didn't approve of Gandhi being in the first class. And even though Gandhi had a ticket, Gandhi refused to move to the back of the train and was forcibly removed and thrown off. His act of civil disobedience awoke in him a determination to devote himself to fight the deeper tissues of color and prejudice. His vow that night to try, if possible, to root out the disease and suffer hardship in the process. From that night forward, the small, unassuming man would grow into a giant force for civil rights. In retrospect, the journey from Durban to Pretoria stuck him in one of the most creative experiences of his life. It was his moment of truth. Henceforth, he would not accept injustice as part of the natural or unnatural order of South Africa. He would defend his dignity as an Indian and as a man. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. What a beautiful story. I love it. Okay, so we're going to hand the screen over to Mirabai and Steve Bangs, Heart Dream, for our first song this morning, See the Light. Thank you both.
Take the sun and pour it in. Oh,
So beautiful. I love that. Love grows higher than your mind. It's very, very profound. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this morning. All right, Bonnie, I'm going to hand the screen over to you for our prosperity blessing today. Thank you so much. Bonnie, you'll need to unmute. You see her. There you go. Yay.
We come together today, opening our hearts and minds to the one spirit, the light, infinite mind, knowing that there is only one power and one life, and that is the life of spirit. We affirm that we are one with spirit, and there is no one, nothing that is separate from this oneness. We are one with that infinite mind that has created all that is. We know that the divine qualities of peace, of power, of plenty, and of wisdom are already within each of us. And we embrace those qualities now. We step forth in the truth of who and what we are, saying yes to our prosperity, our harmony, our health, our order, and our love. And with the greatest gratitude, we accept this transformation of consciousness for ourselves. We know that it is done, and we give thanks. And now we release, we let go, and let spirit do its perfect work. We trust the universe to provide for us. It is done, and it is so. This is just a reminder for you to continue to align with our prosperity. And we have several ways that you can do that. We stay connected with our blessed community by visiting the website or Facebook and connection, reading our weekly connection, and join with others in our small groups for sharing and book discussion. We join others in our community in making conscious contributions to our center by PayPal, Zelle, and just an old-fashioned check. We check our website to read about our chosen organizations and choose to add our additional support to those special nonprofits supporting our local communities. We save our bottles and cans for our recycling campaign. And today we will come together on Zoom after this service at 11:30 to participate in a very, very important annual meeting. Come and see us on Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. I appreciate you sharing with us this morning. Yes, come see us on Zoom at 11:30. And I do love those old-fashioned checks. Dave is our treasurer. He gets all the PayPal and the Zelle notes and payments, and I collect the mail here. So I get all the old-fashioned checks with all the cards and notes. So thank you, thank you. I love them. I truly love receiving them and taking them out of the mailbox. So thank you, thank you. Okay, we have our second song for you this morning. It's Bells of Freedom. Thank you, Mirabai and Steve.
Let's ring out the bells of freedom. Our hearts beat the rhythm of joy. We'll see through this world of illusion. Our love is too strong to destroy.
Let's take the ladder through the mirror
And stand upon a different land where all the unanswered questions can be found in the palm of our hands. Let's ring out the bells of freedom. Our hearts beat the rhythm of joy. We'll see through this world of illusion. Our love is too strong to destroy.
since we belong to each other.
We open up the sacred doors, and the rainbow never ends. Let's ring out the bells of freedom. Our hearts beat the rhythm of joy. We'll see through this world of illusion. Our love is too strong to destroy.
Oh, now we found our way back home.
Where the stories we never heard are filling our hearts with love from the sweet song of the bird.
We'll
Soar like the eagle, dance in the wind. We'll find our peace where truth begins. Let's ring out the bells of freedom. Our hearts beat the rhythm of joy. We'll see through this world of illusion. Our love is too strong to destroy. Let's ring out the bells of freedom. Our hearts beat the rhythm of joy. We'll see through this world of illusion. Our love is too strong to destroy. Let's ring out the bells of freedom.
Oh my goodness, I love that song. I love every lyric. So perfect. Our hearts beat the rhythm of joy. Okay, I know there's lots of love coming in for both of you, Heart Dreams. So if you want to know more, download music, find, I think even CDs you can order, download it, whatever you want, you can find on heartdream.com. So that's how you can find Mirabai and Steve and those beautiful, amazing songs and such profound lyrics. Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us this morning and taking us deeper into our center. I am so grateful. Thank you, all three of you, Mirabai, Steve, and Bonnie, precious, precious souls, for opening up our Sunday morning with beauty and inspiration and joy. We are so very, very, very blessed by your presence. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
I will see you on the other side, on our Facebook side. I feel like we're talking like different timelines here or something. I'll see you. We portal in, we're jumping around. Mwah. I love you. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're so very welcome. We have our beloved TJ back with us. We always appreciate the vibration that TJ brings to us and enjoy sharing our joy-filled time. It's so rich. It's always such a rich time with you. Thank you. Thank you for being with us. And I'm going to share TJ's bio with you so you get to know him a little bit better, and then we'll pray in and hand the screen over to TJ, and then we'll do a little Q&A at the end and wrap up. Oh, what happened here? Okay. I don't know, something popped on my screen, but I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so I think I was helping Bonnie go, and then I'm not really sure what happened. Something, you know, we roll with things here. And a big report. I don't want to report anything. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about TJ. That's what we're here for. TJ Woodward is a revolutionary recovery specialist, best-selling author, inspirational speaker, and addiction treatment consultant who has helped countless people through his simple yet powerful teachings. He is the author of the books Conscious Being, Awakening to Your True Nature, and Conscious Recovery, A Fresh Perspective on Addiction. TJ is also the creator of the Conscious Recovery Method, which is a groundbreaking and effective approach to viewing and treating addiction. He was given the honor of being ordained as an Agape minister by Dr. Michael Beckwith, and is also the founding minister of Agape Bay Area in Oakland, which was the first satellite community of the Agape International Spiritual Center in LA. And we are so grateful for you and all you do in the world and all you bring to us. We are blessed, so, so blessed. So I invite you to pray in with me in this moment so we can anchor in and allow our center to open. So if you feel comfortable, close your eyes with me. Join in taking a conscious, deep, expansive, cleansing inward breath of love and gratitude. And just allow tension to fall away. We know that we join together one in the spirit, and that we are tuning into that great expansive God essence, source energy that we are, that everyone is. Our miraculous breath reminds us that we are one presence, that we are one. In our life, we're always one together. We are here to recognize our divine self and see the divine nature in all beings. Praying love and peace over anyone today who is calling out for comfort. We cover Mary, Jan's sister-in-law, who was admitted to the ER this morning. We embrace and allow our true essence to guide us, knowing that there is divine order in all that we see. We bless TJ this morning and his words that flow through from the Spirit. And we are so grateful for his willingness to say yes, to be the conduit for our spiritual message this morning. And we are wholeheartedly available to receive this message. I release this word into the field, knowing that it is done, and so it is.
So it is.
Amen. Ashe, namaste. Thank you, TJ, for being with us.
Wow, thank you, Amy, for that beautiful prayer. I'm just feeling into the frequency of love, and Heart Dream for your incredible music and that wonderful reading. That was so rich. So I always like to start simply by saying thank you, because as Master, I'm going to get this, you ready? As Meister Eckhart said many, many years ago, if the only prayer we ever say is thank you, it will be enough. So I lean into that this morning and every morning, asking myself the question, what would gratitude create in this moment? And that's a question that I have been living in for quite some time. And it's very simple. I really do appreciate simple, because my mind loves to complicate just about anything, to figure it out, to dissect it, to debate all the different sides of what seems to be happening. And something very simple that is coming through for me in this moment to speak to is this sentence, or this fill in the blank formula that has dramatically changed my life. And it's profoundly simple. What gets created when? And then I fill in the blank. What gets created when I watch the news for more than 5 minutes a day? What gets created when I walk on the beach in the sunset? What gets created when I spend 20 minutes in mindfulness? What gets created when I debate current issues in the world? Those are all teasers to bring us to this moment. And my talk today is titled The Anatomy of Transformation. And what I feel called to start with is, what does transformation even mean? Starting with breaking down that word in a very, very simple way. So trans means a few different things. One is to move through or to get to the other side, as in a transatlantic journey, go across the Atlantic. Another one means to change, right? Or to somehow change what was into something that can be, as in transgender, right? I'm changing my gender. So to go across is one, to change is another. And then there's this third definition, which means to move beyond, right? To move beyond. So transformation. Formation is form. So to go through form, to change form, and then ultimately to live beyond form is what we're going to be talking about. So what is form? Form is what we can see, touch, taste. It's the manifestation, or what we have once called reality. Maybe you have believed that what you can see and touch and taste is reality and the only reality. But when we look at transformation using the definition to move beyond, we can say we can live beyond form. If you use the definition of change, you can say transformation would be, I can literally change form, or what we call reality. As we know in New Thought, we would say our thoughts create our reality, and we recognize that we actually can change form based on thinking, based on our emotions, based on the frequency that we're holding. So just out of the gate, look at all the different possibilities of the word transformation. We can move through. I love what Amy said about the chrysalis, because it's a very, very important, and to me, a very profound teaching. Because sometimes, for those of us who scroll through social media, we see quotes and we think, oh, that's lovely, or I really, that warms my heart to hear it. And then there's some that I invite myself to pause and really lean into. Because using this first definition of transformation, moving through form, in my experience, I don't bypass what's happening in the world. And I think it's important because if you think of, as Amy said, the caterpillar in the chrysalis or the cocoon working its way out into a new way of being, because it's literally going to change its form. And that's true for all of us. If the time in the cocoon isn't honored, life ends. So think about that, be with that, lean into that frequency for just a moment. If I don't move through form, my life will end. Now, that could mean literally, or it could mean that the life I'm trying to create cannot get born because I am resistant to what is. If a caterpillar only focuses on wanting to be a butterfly, which first of all, I'm going to guess, I don't know, because I think, as the Course in Miracles says, all I know is not all there is to know. So we have a lot of ideas of what we think intelligence is. So I don't actually know what a caterpillar is experiencing. But from this state of consciousness, we at least believe that it doesn't have the intellect to understand it's about to become a butterfly. It is in the moment and it's instinctual what it's doing. It's taking that time, that cocoon time, which also could be looked at as going within. There are a lot of people looking at 2020 as the cocoon and 2021 as the butterfly. And I love that. And the truth is, it's always happening. Right? It's always happening. When I'm transforming or changing thought form or changing what we call reality, physical form, an important step is to honor what we might call the darkness. Right? So if I take a seed and I put it out in the blazing sun, it will not grow. It must go into the soil and be nurtured by the darkness and the nutrients of the soil. And it spends a dedicated amount of time in that darkness, in that cocoon, before the sunlight comes to it and it grows into a new form. So are you ready to transform your life? Would you like to change the form of life? Would you like to change the conditions of your life and the world? That's really what we're going to be exploring today, and the anatomy of that. How do we actually do that? And so going back to the scrolling through and seeing a really nice quote or a really nice meme, what I intend to talk about today is this third definition of transformation, and that is to move beyond form. Because a lot of New Thought focuses on how to change form, and I think it's incredible and important. We know our consciousness changes the world. We know that we contribute to collective consciousness. When I post a quote and it gets a lot of shares or a lot of likes, I know that it's important in collective consciousness. So I posted one a few days ago that said, diet isn't only what you eat. It's also what you read. It's also who you choose to have in your life. It's also what you watch, right? So we have physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual diets, and where are we putting our focus, right? So this is going to be really simple, perhaps a little crass, but here it is. Garbage in, garbage out. That is a great way. Maybe that's the teen version of New Thought, garbage in, garbage out. And I say that because I love teens, because they're so present and so honest, and something so simple like that can become transformational. So if I am spending my time watching the news, or as my friend Michael Beckwith says, the olds, right? Because it's the same story. The same story gets perpetuated over and over and over again. Now, if you're watching right now and you're noticing any kind of internal reaction, we want to lean into that and ask what's happening for us. When we move into a place of, rather than I'm going to judge myself or maybe judge me or judge what you're seeing in the world, we want to look at what is happening internally as a possibility for your transformation. In my experience, the profound transformations that have come in my life have also, at least at one stage of that transformation, they've been painful. I doubt it's pain-free for a caterpillar to become a butterfly. I mean, that much I can assume, right? It's got to be painful to outgrow the safety of what is enveloping you, right? Literally, that would be the womb for us. It's had this other life, though, and then it chooses, and we don't know to what degree it's a conscious choice, to go into the cocoon, to take that time to transform and become the butterfly. So honoring and allowing what's happening in that process is incredibly important. And what I watch, what I talk about, what I entertain, what I read, what I eat, the conversations I'm having, all of those are the diet that creates the transformation. And what would happen, so I'm going back to my sentence, what gets created when? What gets created when I move out of judgment and into curiosity? Mostly of myself. So rather than judging myself, oh gosh, I've been watching too much news, I could say, what gets created when I watch the news? What gets created when I read this particular story? Or what gets created when instead I shift my focus to something different, something greater? And what I mean by that is this third definition of transformation, to move beyond form. So my intention for the rest of this talk, and hopefully when we open it up to questions, is to look at this maybe third level of transformation where we're looking at how we can move beyond form. And as I said, quotes are really nice, and sometimes they make us feel good or help us to feel good. Sometimes they touch something deep within us. How many times have someone said to me, thank you for the reminder? I think that's a huge compliment, right? I remember, this is a side note, but somehow it might be relevant. I remember early in working in becoming a speaker, a spiritual teacher, an author, when someone would say, thank you for the reminder, my mind would feel a little offended by that. Well, this is something really important to say. And then I understood very deeply that the most powerful spiritual truths aren't new information. It's something that touches deep within each of us. When I think about the profound teachings that I have come across, they weren't necessarily something new. It might have been a different way of saying it from my mind, but the true resonance was hearing it and feeling it very deeply. Oh, I've come home to a greater truth. That's how I felt when I walked into Unity in 1988. That's how I have felt in many New Thought circles. That's how I felt when I heard Michael Beckwith speak the first time. That's how I felt when I read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. All these spiritual truths that were touching something really deep that said, oh, sounds true. And so I want to read a quote that has changed my life. And it really is a bit more of a paragraph. And I'm going to do this very consciously and very slowly, because there was a point in my life that this created the transformation that I had been seeking, because it allowed me to move beyond form. It allowed me to move beyond what we would call karma or samsara in the East, right? The conditions of life that are ever changing. There's death, there's rebirth, there's the beginning and the middle and the end of everything. And suffering is really me clinging to trying to get that to change, instead of getting myself to understand that the only true transformation is a transformation that happens within. So this particular paragraph wasn't something that I read and had this instant shift and suddenly I realized I could live beyond form. It was a spiritual practice that I dedicated myself to for about 1 year. And, it's interesting. I've used this quote in the past, but I don't think I've ever shared it in the way of this is probably one of, if not the most transformational paragraphs of my life. Not because I read it and I loved it and it sounded good. It did all of that, but because I took it in as a spiritual practice. So I'm going to spend a little time reading it, and then with Amy's permission, we'll post it on the Brentwood Facebook page and maybe even send it to all of you. And again, I'm going to read this very slowly, sentence by sentence. And as you're hearing it, my invitation for you is to think of it through a spiritual practice lens, not a, oh, this sounds great lens, but oh, what would it be like to actually live that sentence? Oh, what gets created when I do that? What gets created when I live that? So it starts with this: the great way is not difficult for those who are unattached to their preferences. Let go of longing and aversion, and everything will be perfectly clear. When you cling to a hairbreadth of distinction, heaven and earth are set apart. If you want to realize the truth, don't be for or against. The struggle between good and evil is the primary disease of our mind. Not grasping the deeper meaning, you just trouble the mind's serenity. As vast as infinite space, it is perfect and lacks nothing. But because you select and reject, you cannot perceive its true nature. Be at peace with the oneness of things, and all errors will disappear by themselves. Okay, so we are living in extraordinary times. That could be said at any moment. Right now in our country, we are seeing what appears to be division and good and evil and right and wrong. What the deeper meaning of this is that we are deeply entrenched in a paradigm of good and bad and right and wrong. And because of that, we are at least seemingly in a lot of conflict. So I want to be clear as I move into a conversation about how we can actually transform our lives and live in a state of freedom. What I'm not saying is that we're going to pretend like what's happening in the world isn't happening in the world. I'm also struck by what we're celebrating is the birthday of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was one of many people who didn't take spirituality, or in his case, his religion, and take it to the sidelines. In other words, he wasn't pretending that inequality wasn't happening. He was bringing his own spiritual path into the conversation of equality. And it could be said that he was fighting against. That's not really what I believe he was doing. And I think it's fascinating that Gandhi was also, Nancy read Gandhi's story, because those are two people who are dedicated to standing for, to bringing peace. Of course, one of the most quoted Martin Luther King Jr. quotes is, hate cannot drive out darkness, only love can do that, right? So can I, in the midst of what's happening, lean into that quote of a hairbreadth distinction of good and bad and right and wrong, I will suffer. What often gets discussed, or the kids, what they say now, conversate, which by the way is not a word, but I'm going to guess in another few years it'll be in the dictionary now because we create new language. So the young'uns say, we're going to conversate about this. So let's have a conversation about this. I think a lot of times when we hear things like stand for peace, not be against, stand for equality, not be against division, your mind might hear me say, don't do anything about what's happening in the world. Just unplug from that, go within, recognize that you're love, everything is love and light. That is an ultimate truth. That is an ultimate truth. So that is and ultimate truth. For some reason, I said that 3 times. Maybe I'm trying to convince myself of that. And we also live in this world, this 3-dimensional world, where we see things happening and we might have a reaction or a response like, ooh, that's terrible. Oh, that's wonderful. We know we're dedicated to not talk about politics when we have these conversations. And what I will say is not about politics, but about the whole concept of politics. And that is, I will be okay when this person's out of office, or I will be okay if this person is. And that really is the definition of suffering. And if you go back to the quote, that is the primary disease of the mind, believing that freedom comes from the outside in only. But the deeper awareness here is that when I unplug from that and I recognize the true nature of who and what I am, I radiate that into the world. And the greatest paradox is then we start to see change. That's how great social change has happened in the world, in my experience. So when I say this, and we're going to do Q&A in a while, one of you might ask the question, well, don't you think fighting is part of change? I will say, maybe it is. Yes, and profound change happens in consciousness through bringing love into the world, through standing for something instead of standing against. So if we look at all the different things that I might have just said, and we lean into them, I recognize that my diet is incredibly important. What I put into my mind and my heart and my body is incredibly important. And I get to choose because I do have a choice. And the news is seductive because it is really good at telling us the story of division. And there's something about that that's seductive. I remember how fun gossiping was until it wasn't. And it was fun because I got to not look at myself. Because looking at myself at that point in my evolution was too painful. So I preferred, and believe me, this was not always conscious. I preferred to talk about someone else because then I wouldn't have to look at what's really happening for me. Have I dedicated myself to transforming my old ideas and beliefs that I have of hate and division? Or am I projecting that outward? Do I have a piece of lint on my lens that I'm seeing everywhere, as Byron Katie says? And most of us try to change the conditions of the world, but the piece of lint is ours. It was mine, and it continues to be. The great news is there is a path to freedom. There is a way for us to transform that old way of being and seeing and recognize that I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. That's another quote that sounds really nice, doesn't it? I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. But what does that really mean? What gets created when I really understand that? You mean my point of view, my perspective, my opinion isn't who and what I am? And if it's not who and what I am, I don't have to defend it, do I? Because I know a greater reality. And so in the midst of seeming chaos, I can hold how terrible that is. And I can share that, right? I can share that news, but that is what we call gossip. I'm going to share the news of how horrible things are is very simply gossip because it holds within it a judgment of a person or a group of people. So I'm inviting us to take a look at not the good, bad, right, wrong of that, but what gets created. What gets created when I report from that paradigm? That's one of my favorite things that Michael Beckwith says. We are reporters from a new paradigm. I think I did a talk at Brentwood called Reporters from the New Paradigm. The old paradigm is division, it's hate, it's good and bad and right and wrong, it's us and them. The new paradigm is love is who and what we are. Oneness is greater than division. Love is the most powerful energy or frequency in the universe. And guess what? It's who and what I am. What I'm transforming is all the stuff that was told to me that wasn't true. If it's not love is who and what you are, it is on some level an untruth. And we could insert different words into love or peace, wholeness. the frequency that we are vibrating at, the frequency we are tuned into, not only creates our own individual lives, but it changes the collective. And so what a year it has been. What a year the last 12 months have been. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of when a lot of the shelter in place started. We're coming up on an event politically happening in the United States that has an impact on millions of people. And so I can give my power to the media. I can give my power to politicians. Or I can say, isn't it interesting that this is what's happening, but I know a greater reality. And I'm going to report from that paradigm. And that paradigm does not include division. You see, what I've noticed, and I'm just going to be bold here, because as a guest speaker, I get to be really bold, and then you can not invite me back, and that's okay. You know, when I was the senior minister, I had to, but if I was really bold when I spoke, I knew that people might call me or tell me, oh, I don't know if you should have said that. Thank you for laughing, Amy. I want to be bold. I have seen a lot of New Thought people proclaiming love and light and posting hatred and division. And I think it's time for us to stop talking about building a wall and start talking about putting up a mirror to look at ourselves. Now, what you might hear me say is, how dare they talk about building a wall? They need to put up a mirror. No, yeah, or yes, and. Let's say yes, and. What I'm really saying here, and this is where I'm being bold. If it's true that oneness is greater than division, if it's true, the first principle of unity and so many other New Thought traditions, the first principle is there is one power and one presence active in my life and in the universe. Either that's true or it's not. I'm either going to live that or not. Spirituality isn't a belief system, BS belief system. Spiritual traditions and practices are intended to offer us a way to have a transformation. Words are limited, but what I want to close with is, you're watching, and if you're watching, you are at least in some way part of the New Thought movement, meaning you have dedicated yourself to spiritual transformation. And what I want to invite for us is to take a look at what you're contributing, right? Because the next phase of the quote about our diet is, what am I feeding the universe? What am I doing? You know, we're talking about Gandhi eating animals. Do you know, if we didn't eat animals, we probably wouldn't have most of the viruses that have been deadly? Very simple. Do you know that if we wouldn't eat animals, we would probably be able to heal the environment very quickly? That was definitely an opinion, and I ate animals for years, so I want to be clear. It's not coming from a place of judgment, but it's coming from a place of, in my own heart, I realized that it's not congruent for me to say that I want to be a part of bringing love into the world while also doing that. And if I can look at it without judgment, as Krishnamurti says, the highest form of human intelligence is to see ourselves without judgment. How am I contributing to what's happening in the world? What am I putting in? What am I putting out? Because in the end, what is being called of us, each of us, if you're watching right now, this is your call to be the love in the world that we want to see. Now, obviously, I'm not the first person that said that. We're going back to Gandhi, be the change you want to see. But the change that I'm referring to isn't only changing the externals, because it is important to stand for equality. It is important to stand for certain political issues. More people die of hunger in a day. I don't even know the number, but it's staggering. That's a pandemic. Where are we putting our energy? What am I standing for? Can I be the frequency of love? What am I feeding the world on a daily basis? What am I posting? So this is what I'm really closing with. If we want to transform our consciousness, we must pause. when we have the reactive mind or the reactive heart. We must pause and acknowledge what's happening internally, allow ourselves to transform that, move into the frequency of love, and then bring that into the world. That's how consciousness shifts on the planet and in the universe, and we're all part of that. We are called to be the love frequency in the world, and there's never been a greater moment that it's needed. Now, I can say that at every moment because it's always what's wanted and needed. So this is a new moment, a new you, a new opportunity to be the frequency of love, to pause and ask the question, what does it create when? What does it create when I share this news story? What does it create when I offer a different point of view? Peace and blessings. I love you all. I'm so incredibly grateful for this community, for your community, for our community. And I'm really, really grateful, I think, for the Q&A portion.
Yes, 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 we are. Thank you, TJ, so much. Always such beautiful reminders, and they are. And yeah, I love that. I always said, you know, I've made a decision to love, to be that loving force, be that loving, and I don't get to pick and choose who or what, you know, I just embrace it all, right? And yeah, and that takes practice at different times. So there's two things. Well, there's one thing you said that really made me laugh: garbage in, garbage out, because I've always said that to my children. In fact, probably many of you watching right now have heard me say that before, but it's so perfect.
So perfect.
It's a quick little reminder. And you spoke to this, but I've always said to them too, like, if you spot it, you got it. So kind of like looking in the mirror and saying, you know, what about this is being activated in me, and
Right.
And really going within and taking a look. So thank you. I was jotting down, but I really love what gets created when that's really very profound place to dwell.
Yes. Wow.
In especially moments when we're, you know, feeling that something's been activated within us. You talked about suffering and a little bit when you were reading the quote, which we will definitely get posted, because that was just so beautiful. And it reminded me of something that Martin Luther King Jr. said. And I'm not saying it exactly right because I don't have the quote in front of me, but he was talking about how to respond to situations that when he was feeling suffering, but situations in general. And he said, I could react in bitterness, or I can seek to transform the suffering. And you really spoke to that today. Instead of changing and clinging to what's going on, really coming back to looking at
And acknowledging that we're on the advanced course right now. And what I mean by that is it's a call to each of us, and we have a choice.
It is a call. That is absolutely, I agree. Okay, let's check in here with everybody and see what comments we have. Thank you for answering. The question of the day is, what does transformation mean to you? So you still have time to pop that answer in, and we'll draw a winner. Garrett says, that's a brilliant quote. That's when you read, so much to ponder, so helpful to our deadly partisanship. Pat says, did you want to respond?
No, I mean, just listen to that deadly partisanship. Yeah. And if we go back to the quote, this the primary, I think, is the disease of the mind. I remember, like, you know, talk about being bold. I one time said patriotism is a disease. And I got some pushback, and I want to say why I mean it so that everyone can hear what I mean. When I am, like, if I take on the identity that I'm an American, for example, if I'm holding that, when I take on an identity of something, it's really easy to create an other, right? So Amy and I could say, like, we are people who wear blue, right? So then I'm going to automatically have a judgment if someone's wearing red. Now, I know that's overly simplistic, but is it really? Right? Is it really overly simplistic? Because what we've lived in the paradigm where we must fight for our freedom, and millions of people have died throughout the history of the world defending what seems to be mine or my point of view. And I just feel like right now we have this huge opportunity for transformation.
I completely agree. And a word you just said there, defending. And that's where I notice some of the split happening when we aren't able to stay in a place to hear and really connect and come back to, we are humans, we are in this together, we are one, and come back to a defensive position. It doesn't seem to be serving. So Pat says, oneness of things reminds me of the yin yang of things. Dennis says that's a translation of the first part of the oldest extant of the Chinese Zen document. He reads the whole thing every morning. Wonderful. Wow.
Who said that?
Dennis.
Hi, Dennis. Thank you for that. Yeah, well quoted.
Mine. He zooms in from New York. Thank you, Dennis, for being here.
Wonderful.
Maria says, thank you, TJ. We cannot fight for peace with hatred. Only creates more chaos.
Right.
Maria says, Jesus said, it's not important what goes into your mouth, but what comes out of it.
There you go.
Dawn says, somehow we need to not be conflicted while acknowledging the existence of people and behaviors that demand the resistance of anyone truly engaged in our democracy. I think I'm doing that. Maybe the key is to not take things personally. It's not okay, but I'm okay. I won't hate anybody.
Yeah. And I think there's so much truth in what you just said. And I would invite to look at the word resistance and what it creates. And on one level, it does create change. Let's just acknowledge that. On some level, these movements of resistance have created some change. And I just want to invite myself to look at, what am I standing for instead of what am I resisting? Because a reminder, and this again is a little bit of like what I would call the advanced course, a reminder of someone on the perceived other side is judging me in the exact same way. Right? The exact same way. I remember having a conflictual relationship with someone that I loved very dearly that was really unraveling, and it was very, very painful. And we actually brought in a mediator, and this was probably a decade ago. We brought in a mediator to sit down with us, and we realized that we had the exact same story about each other. My story was she's selfish, she's uncaring, her heart is closed to me. Her story was he's selfish, he's uncaring, and his heart is closed to me. I mean, it was a profound moment for me because I had an intellectual understanding of that, but here was someone sitting across from me that I loved very dearly that had the exact same experience, not nuanced, exact. And this mediator was brilliant. She was a New Thought person, and she said, you're both seeing each other in the exact same way. So what's really happening?
Yeah.
What's really happening? And then I got to, Byron Katie does her turnaround. If we're going to live this, we're going to ask those 4 questions. Is it true? Do I absolutely know it's true? What do I experience when I believe it's true? And then this turnaround is to invite myself, is it possible that what I'm projecting is also true for me? That's where the freedom comes in. And then I no longer have to defend, I'm standing for something. Yeah. And it, of course, it could be easy to see a certain group of people that are damaging democracy, but I can guarantee you that at least someone in that side is saying that about the perceived other side. So let's look at this, right? Because, and I'm not going to get into my political point of view, but you have people called freedom fighters, right? So they believe they're fighting for freedom. And then another group that's like, you're destroying democracy. What's really happening here? We're pointing at each other, right? And I have a lot of friends who have said, but you have to acknowledge that it's evil. Okay, have to acknowledge that it's evil. But someone on the perceived other side is saying that something that I'm standing for is evil. And I must, if I want to be free and actually make a difference in the world, I must at least take a look at that. Yeah. And if you're hearing this and there's any kind of reaction within you, gosh, isn't that great news?
I love that. Lean in,
right? Because that place for me, and I'm speaking for me now, that place for me is a place of transformation.
Yes. Oh, absolutely agree with you there. Yeah. I love what you said. We're on the advanced course, and we really are. And I think this part of that, you mentioned, groups of people, it's easy to fall into that, that group does that group does that. But that's like your story you just shared. It's never the case. They're over there saying, I hear from all sides, opinions and views, perspective on what's going on, and the words could all be interchanged.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
exactly. So it's like, let's not give our power, our freedom away to that,
Right.
narrative, that dialogue. Okay, let's check back in with everybody here. Christy says, thank you for reminding us to act on, be love in the world. Yes. Garrett says, thank you, TJ, for your wonderful, wonderful sermon, which gives us so much to think about and strive for. Pat says, TJ, you're clear, speaks to me always. Mirabai says, thank you, TJ, we are all connected. Yes, the love frequency is the flow of God, the source of infinite spirit. Thank you from the bottom of our heart, Mirabai and Steve.
Thank
For
you.
being here, both of you. Luinda says, great message, TJ. Reminded me of the inner work I need to do to accomplish the love in the world I crave. Beverly says, I so
Wait,
love,
could you pause there? Listen to
I
that.
sure can.
Can you read that one more time? Because this,
Reminded me of the inner work I need to do to accomplish the love in the world I crave.
right. I crave love from the world. And that is the bottom line. And how must I transform in order to, what was the word they used?
She said, reminded me, inner work, to do the inner work, to accomplish.
Yeah, to accomplish, right,
the
to
love.
accomplish the love. In other words, and I don't know if this is, and who said that? I'm sorry.
Luinda, that's okay.
Oh, the window. Great. So to accomplish could mean different things, but to me, what I'm hearing is to bring that into the world instead of looking to the world. It's the greatest paradox of the human existence, right? Everything I've ever been seeking from the world is really already within me and it's mine to bring. And when I understand that, then suddenly I get so much more from the world, right? Because then, you know, what used to be seductive with gossip becomes seductive with love and connection, because I want more of what I'm doing.
Yes.
I don't know if you've ever noticed that, right?
Yes.
I love to shop. I'm just going to own it. But once I get rolling, I'm like, oh, I want more. I noticed that. But if I'm not in that frequency, I'm not really thinking about that, right? So if I'm in the frequency of division and gossip, I want more. My ego wants more. It wants to be fed by that. And in that same way, in some circles, we call it a healthy ego. I don't like that term because I don't want to look at myself as healthy or unhealthy or good or bad. In the same way, though, the more I meditate, the more I want. The more I connect, the more I want. The more I'm in conversations that matter, right? Because a very simple one is spend your time with people who talk about ideas rather than other people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like Amy and I have a great connection because we talk about ideas. I love being in the visionary process with her and so many others. Right. And then that becomes, ooh, I want more of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. That was actually, when you said that, it reminded me, that was the last part of Martin Luther King Jr.'s quote about, choosing, reacting in bitterness or coming into seeking transformation. He says to go into this creative force, the energy of creating. And that's why I love your question, what gets created when it's so beautiful. It's so poignant and simple. So, coming back to that, very, very simple to come back to. And yes, accomplish love in the world. It's really a beautiful, beautiful place to be. And sometimes, people, so I'm just saying, you spoke to the paradigm. I'm saying, I'm just not available for kind of old paradigm stuff. I just speak from a place of love. If somebody hears it in a certain way, that's okay. That's okay. If we just continually come back from that deep knowing of our oneness, that's really, really powerful place to come from. Okay, so lots of comments. I'm seeing everyone. I'm getting to them. Beverly says, I so love the question you posed, TJ. Thank you for an action question to help my journey. Yes. Beautiful. 2020 is the cocoon. 2021 is the butterfly. That is good perspective. Thank you, Dawn. I've seen a lot of on social media about that too. Transformation lives in the heart of courage, compassion, observation, and love, says Ron.
Beautiful, Ron. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you. Garrett says, one of the hardest things is to let other people have wrong ideas and not try to force the truth on them. Give them time to think and experience and change their view and our own.
Yeah, and I'm going to invite to ask the question, is it true that they have wrong ideas? Right. So I ask myself what gets created when, and I hear you and I honor and acknowledge that, right? Letting someone have their own path is the greatest freedom. And if I'm coming from a place of, I know they're wrong, but eventually they'll get to the truth, right? Because in New Thought, we talk about relative truth and ultimate truth, right? Relative reality and ultimate reality. And relative truth are opinions, right? And ways that are right and wrong and good and bad. And they have a place. My mind, I thought the intention was to get rid of my mind and no longer have any opinions. And I tried that spiritual practice, go 30 days without an opinion. I did not make it 30 minutes. It wasn't a bad thing. It was so much freedom. We hear a lot of people say, I have to heal all of my wounds. Well, what if, for example, we talk about the inner critic, right? And rather than thinking I need to change my story, can I recognize that it's just one thought among millions of others that are possible, right? A thought that like they're right and I'm wrong, because that's the same as you're right and I'm wrong. It's the same both ways. It's two sides of the ego coin. And I recognize I do have opinions. I have millions of them. And go ahead, Amy.
I was just saying, and wouldn't you say that's where suffering lives? Because if we're waiting, they're wrong, and we're waiting for something outward to look different, then in the meantime, what does that look like?
Yeah. And the greatest paradox, again, we'll go back to Martin Luther King. I think of the image of them walking on that bridge in Selma. It's iconic. It's ingrained in our consciousness because there were people standing in courage, right? They weren't fighting. The other side was fighting, but they're like, no, we're not doing this. We're standing in this truth. And then that's the truth with a capital T. I'm going to stand in this and I'm going to know that. And and it's so easy. Just to name it, it's so easy to forget that. And that's why I think we have spiritual community, not because I have answers, but because we come together and remind each other, oh yeah, it's a moment to moment choice. Which thought do I want to water and feed?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. The collective consciousness and that vibration, that frequency that we create is felt.
Yeah.
Everywhere. So you're powerful beings. We say this every week. Okay, everybody, let me see here. Good response to my comment, Don says. Dennis says, you're welcome. After having memorized the whole document 25 years ago and reciting it out loud every morning since then, it begins sinking in. Yes.
And that's what I did. So I love that. I didn't, because honestly, I read it and I thought, oh, that's cool. And then I printed it and put it in a frame, right? And then it was by my bed. And then I realized, oh my gosh, this is a profound teaching. It's a profound teaching. And it's an ancient teaching, right? So you know what? Nothing's changed in 3,000 years or however many. It's the same process. It's the same process that we get to ultimate freedom.
Yeah. Universal truth, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a great idea. I've done that for years too with things, put them on notes, sticky, like where I brush my teeth. It's like every day, right? It's really part of our practice. Yeah. I love that. I love that you shared that. Thank you. Gail says, thank you, TJ, for putting what is going on in our lives right now, is giving us opportunities to heal the world and ourselves with forgiveness and love.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gail. Christy has a question. How do we best control our reactions? Just stop, pause, step back, leave the situation, then think about it and feel it, understand it, and then go back?
For me, it becomes a process of becoming really curious, right? Starting with a recognition 100% that it's not what someone just said or did, that it's something that's alive within me. And I keep going back to the chrysalis story because Amy told that story, like that it was painful as we grow. So it's painful for me as I outgrow my level of consciousness. There's what we call trouble in the border, right? I'm expanding. So this shell that I've created that I call me, my personality, this is who I am, is becoming the place within me is becoming larger than the container, like the crabs that choose a new shell as they grow, right? That's just, we grow into a larger awareness. So when there's something that appears to be challenging or difficult, I start with, oh, isn't this wonderful, right? And it doesn't mean it feels wonderful. And then I go into what's happening within me, what is really happening. So, you know, I work in the mental health field, and we've traditionally looked at anger in the count to 10 and then come back. And all of that is useful, but it's only looking at the symptom. The symptom is anger. And we've tended to say there's something wrong with anger, which is not even true. It's just an experience that's happening. Gabor Mate says, trauma doesn't show up as a memory, it shows up as a reaction.
Yes.
Right, so something just got touched. Ooh, isn't that wonderful? Let me actually be with that, be present with that, because yes, it's feeling it, but there's something much deeper than that. And that is an actual inner exploration. And it really requires that I love myself very deeply. And I don't mean the small self, personality self. I mean, oh my gosh, I'm transforming. Oh my gosh, I'm scared. Oh my gosh, I'm hurt. Oh my gosh, I'm angry. Oh gosh, I love that part of me, right? And then start to look at how I've used particular strategies to defend that. And that strategy could be fight, flight, or freeze. For me, I would freeze a lot, and still do notice if I'm going numb. Oh wow, isn't that interesting? I'm in the unconscious strategy of shutting down. And I love and appreciate that about myself. And then I start looking at what's really happening. And for most of us, it's a historical or anhistorical, correctly, wound. It's something that is, it's not what's happening. Course in Miracles again says, what I'm upset about is not what I'm upset about. There's a profound spiritual truth. So becoming curious about what's really happening.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm never upset for the reason I think. And I think you also said this earlier, I have thoughts, I'm not my thoughts. And really part of that transformation is really tuning into that. And thank you for everything you just said. That's, I think, very important pieces there, and coming within to nurture that spot rather than trying to move away from it,
Right.
you know, and leaning into it. Okay, Kathy looks like has a question. As a former cult member, I don't see evil. I see a cult mentality that has been created by certain news organizations and politicians. There are resources about how to talk to people in cults to gently bring more reality into their awareness. But it's hard because I am very reactive to anything that feels like hate or extreme delusion.
Yeah.
How do I remain centered and when talking to someone who seems to be under the influence of mind control?
Well, I start with, you know, because Kathy, we're doing the advanced course.
Yes.
In what way am I under the influence of mind control? Right. So I start with that. You know, it's tricky. It's a tricky conversation. So I'm pausing for a moment. I start with, in what way is it true about me? That's now my starting point, because I notice that we can bypass all those steps and get down to the turnaround for Byron Katie, right? Her work is, in what ways is that true about me? Because again, you know, my sister loves turning the news. She thinks it's funny, which on one level it is funny. On another level, it deeply saddens me. But she'll flip back and forth to these two particular news stations and listen to the same story. They're not even the same story. Right. And one group of people says, well, that side is being brainwashed. But the other group of people says this side is being brainwashed. And so what I want to be aware of, you know, through confirmation bias, and now with social media, and it, you know, going back to what is the movie called? Amy, maybe help me out.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. The
Social dilemma.
Dilemma.
Where, see, because algorithm is consciousness. Algorithm is consciousness. And certain political figures, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, certain political figures knew how to harness that really well, and literally to the minutia of what people lived in particular counties and how easily it was to convince them of something. Actually, a lot of those online personality tests were intended to see how easy it was to influence someone. The trick with this, though, is it's easy for me to see that on the perceived other side. Oh yeah, they're just believing what they hear on blah, blah, blah network. They're just believing that. They're believing this lie. And then I can start looking at what I'm putting in. What am I putting in? And what is the truth here? And again, we're talking about truth in relative reality. So truth in relative reality always is multifaceted and has different points of view. And usually what we've been trained to believe is that mine is right and yours is wrong, right? And we get taught that. And it's a tricky conversation, especially, Kathy, I just have so much compassion for you around being part of a cult that wasn't a great experience for you, I'm guessing. And I have firsthand experience with a family member who ran away to a cult for 17 years and everything that happened in her life, right? So I do have compassion for that. And the solution for me is to look at the ways I've been programmed myself. And the reality is now, because I love telling this story, my friend Gavin used to blame his mother for his posture. And he woke up one day and said, I've been blaming my mother for my posture. And then I realized I'm 37. Right? So, and it's just, again, that's such a simple but profound spiritual truth. What am I putting in? What am I watching? Right? Whether it's right or wrong or good or bad, if I'm watching a news program that is talking about division, which by the way is most of them at this point, what does that create? How can I stand for a greater reality?
Yeah. How can I stand for,
or in a greater reality? Yeah.
Yeah. And that we are one, like truly, right? And come back to that place that that we, our true essence, we know the truth. Okay, where was Kathy's comment? Okay, so let me go under here. Maria says, I always use Michael Beckwith quote, attention here and now to keep grounded. Bonnie gives hearts. Chrissy says, thank you for answering her question. Here it says, transformation of our own inner self comes from study, reflection, meditation, then trying to practice in our lives kindness and understanding of others so that we can actually help and teach each other better ways to open our hearts.
Amen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, that's beautiful. That's the last for the comments. So that's a beautiful way to, to close and conclude. Wow, beautiful. Thank you, TJ. Thank you for bringing your spirit and your heart. Always resonates with us. And we'll get that quote posted. If you can send that to me, that would be.
Post it. And then if it's okay with you, can I close us with a little bit of a
I would love
prayer?
I would love for you to. Yeah.
Okay. So just inviting ourselves to move within, taking a nice deep conscious breath. How grateful I am to know that there is one power and one presence, the ever unfolding source energy. This source energy is my life, and it's the life of each and every one of us who have gathered here today. To know this, to be this, to live this, to love this expression, this greater reality of who and what we are. And we know because we have shifted today into a greater awareness of that which we already knew to be true. We have made a profound difference on planet Earth because we've opened our hearts to a greater reality. And because I know in the realm of spirit, it's already done, we simply close with gratitude, grateful, full of gratitude for this expression in the world. So we simply release this now, we let it go, we let it be, and so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Love you all.
I feel into that. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So we have annual meeting. I don't know what time it is. What time?
Yeah, 6 minutes. Love you all.
I'm going to grab a snack and some water, and I will meet you back on our Zoom link, which is on our homepage. Click in there. The password is right there. So I'll see you there in just a few minutes. And if your heart and spirit feel nourished and touched and expanded by our community, please consider visiting our giving back page on our website. We are so deeply grateful for all of you. Beloveds, as you move into this new week, breathe in your strength and your truth, and continually move into your hearts and center there, because there's always peace there. So I'm going to close us with our prayer of transformation. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God directs us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is and always shall be, and we are divine. You are divine. Shine on, bright ones. Remember, you are the light. I will see you at the meeting in just a couple minutes. Mwah. Love and blessings.